Residents concerned by the presence of the new gun store on North Pershing Drive. How do you respond to those concerns?
My first response is one of extreme empathy, because I think that there was a great deal of frustration, certainly in my neighborhood, in Lyon Park there, that there was no heads-up notice, that felt sort of blindsided, that the county certainly knew that the application had been put in, and there was no communication with either the leadership or anyone in the community. And so a great deal of frustration, because it was the heads-up notice in Cherrydale, for example, that gave them an opportunity to work with the landlord to try to prevent that. But moving forward, what I think is frankly discouraging for me is that even though our counties, the county board's hands are tied by state law, their lips do not have to be sealed. Fundamentally, the gun shop use is inconsistent with the neighborhood character retail where it's located, and will be corrosive to that retail environment that many of us citizens worked for years to help rebuild. And I think that the county board ought to issue a non-binding resolution that says this is not the appropriate use for that neighborhood retail center, and go on record as being on the side of the community that has spoken very loudly and plainly and clearly against the gun shop.
This is one of those issues that's kind of difficult because personally, as many of you know, I'm a Quaker. Quakers don't do guns, we don't do gun shops. They've actually demonstrated against gun violence. But I have an official position and I have to follow the law and uphold that position. So in this case, there really was nothing, as my opponent has said. There's nothing that we really legally could do. It's a legal store. They're allowed to operate in Virginia. In fact, Virginia is a real pro-gun state, and they've done a lot to make it easy for gun stores to operate here. We are working very closely with the Civic Association. As many of you know, a number of people were sued. And I can say in part, so was one of our board members. And that, I think, is helpful because that means our council can represent my board colleague and also help with the suit with all of the other citizens. So that actually helps bring in the county on this suit, which I think is an important thing. On the gun store itself, I hope I think if people visit it and buy products, it'll do well. I think if they are allowed to make this a cause célèbre, if you will, just make it a national issue and attract all kinds of people because the county board's doing resolutions and all kinds of things to try to prevent the Second Amendment rights, I think that actually helps them. I think it's actually better that we're doing exactly what we're doing. We're following the law, and I hope this case moves forward well in the courts, and I hope the gun shop ends up having a difficult legal matter because they've been violating people's First Amendment rights.